Picayune and NOLA.com. Thank you for watching this coronavirus town hall with Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Thank you for joining us, Mayor.
Absolutely.
We'd like to start by thanking our sponsor, the law offices of Chip Forstall. And we'd like to thank you. Support for live events like these and all of our coronavirus coverage that's open to the public is made possible by our subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, we ask that you sign up today at NOLA.com/subscribe. It's only $2.32 a week. And before we get started, we're going to pause for a word from our sponsor, Chip Forstall's law offices.
Traffic accidents can be complicated, especially when commercial vehicles are involved. These situations can be upsetting and stressful. To help with these issues, you need a compassionate, experienced attorney. I'm Chip Forstall, and I will listen to you and make your claim as worry-free as possible. Call me today at 504-483-3400 or visit us online at chipforstall.com. Traffic accidents can be complicated, especially when commercial vehicles are involved. These situations can be upsetting and stressful. To help with these issues, you need a compassionate, experienced attorney. I'm Chip Forstall, and I will listen to you and make your claim as worry-free as possible. Call me today at 504-483-3400 or visit us online at chipforstall.com.
Again, thank you to the law offices of Chip Forstall, and let's get started. As you know, we solicited questions about the coronavirus response, the reopening. We got a lot of very specific ones about functions and types of businesses, things like that. But before we get to that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think phase one of the reopening is going so far.
Okay, so well, thank you again, for having this, and to the sponsor, Chip Forstall. I have to give him a shout out there too.
Thank you.
Taking care of it all during COVID-19. We appreciate that. But overall, I would say and assess the phase one reopening in the city has been going. It's been going very well with the number of businesses that are in, compliance or registered with the state fire marshal, as we required as a city, over 2,360 of them, and that number grows daily, and we assess that number every single day. That also helps us be in direct communication with those businesses on a weekly basis, more not just on focusing on compliance, but really on support. What can we do as a city to more, to support them as they're moving through this very fluid and new situation? Yes. So it's both, both instances. Okay. So that's been good. In addition to that, I think the public, continues to respond in a very good way. I'm going to continue to advocate for people to continue, and those who may think it's not a good thing, but to lean on in and look at the entire city as our real focal point of it being healthy. So based on the businesses, based on the public interactions, the number of calls. We had 83 gathering calls to NOPD over the weekend, which is not a large amount when I go from one day to the next. So I use all of these different variables to determine how well we're doing as a city. And I would say publicly that we're doing the right thing. We're on the right track. We are not at a place yet to... we're in this a little over almost 2 weeks now. Right. And so we know.
And it should take about 2 weeks to get some data, correct?
Exactly. So we're getting into the timing to where we will be able to have a better assessment of how well we've been doing as it relates to the public health data.
Exactly.
So I don't have that now.
Okay.
Right, but it's something that we're looking at. Also, we will be coming back around to the public. Dr. Vegno will be giving a data presentation again to the public so that they can see, utilizing that data, how well we are doing. So,
when do you know when that will be?
Well, we're going to do something by the end of this week.
Okay.
Okay, but also looking to do it next week. Just
Right.
keeping the public engaged every step of the way. I mean, you can't make this up, and I don't want us to ever
Right.
get ahead of ourselves or misuse data. We're wanting to continue to be transparent and accountable for our actions and why we're having to make the decisions
Sure.
that we're making.
And of course, they're following this very closely.
Oh, well, as they should,
Yes.
and we should as well.
Sure.
And if the data tells us that we're continuing to improve, then that will have an impact on restrictions, loosening the restrictions moving forward.
Right. So many questions on that, as you would imagine. One really caught my eye, so I wanted to start with Lucas and Laura from Gentilly, who are getting married this fall or hope to. And their question is, they're planning an October wedding. They understand the situation's fluid, but what can you tell them as of now as to how likely it is they might be able to have a gathering?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The data will dictate, and that's why I want us to be upfront with the public about what the data is telling us. And so we don't get to August and get a presentation, but
Right.
people are informed every step of the way. But it's the public's actions will ultimately dictate whether or not they get to have the wedding that they choose to have. It's not all on government; it's on the people of this city.
Right.
And so I would say let's continue to advocate for people to follow the guidelines. It's in the best interest of everyone in this city, and of course, our folks who are looking to get married. But the love is real now. So
Exactly.
You don't have to wait now.
But can their 300 best friends be with them?
I understand that, and I'm hopeful. I really am hopeful. But we will let the data dictate that, and we're saying that literally to all of the expected brides and grooms
Right.
to be. This
Right.
is across people who have booked hotels, and really planning to come
Caterers,
in,
all
and
of it.
caterers.
The-
It's a big deal.
Sure.
So I understand that, but at the same time, I have to continue to be honest, and I don't know right now.
Brandon from Mid-City says he owns an exercise studio that does group classes, and it's been shut down since March. Can he reopen in phase 2?
Well, in phase 2, potentially it depends on that size of that group,
Okay.
right? Because that is something that I'm told we'll be living with for some time now,
Okay,
and even
okay.
the social distancing, that sort of thing. So even if the group size increases,
Yes.
there will be a need for social no classes at gyms.
Right. So even when classes at gyms are allowed, the size you expect to be restricted for a while.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, again, it's about public health, but following those guidelines, and they can go to the state fire marshal's website as well to draw them down. I know they have, and I'm sure he's registered
I'm
already,
sure.
so
Yes.
he knows what to do.
Right.
But as soon as we can loosen restrictions, we will. I have no reason not to. I'm not holding on to something just because. It's about public health.
Sure. Antoinette in Gentilly wants to know, when will casinos be open in New Orleans? They're, of course, open in other parts of the state.
Yes, they are. And I have a meeting actually this week with the Harris leadership.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm very much engaging. It's not time yet.
Okay.
We'll let you know when the time comes, but we want the casino to be prepared when that time comes. And so I'm making sure that I'm accessible, that I'm able to answer any questions that they have. I'm able to look at plans, and procedures that they are putting forward, and really just working with them. So when it's
Okay.
time that they can open up, and understanding what that will look like. It will not be the same, what we were used to pre-COVID, but I do understand that there are guidelines in place. I'll learn more about them this week.
Okay.
But I am open, remaining accessible
Okay.
to our casino.
Are they coming to you with, do you know?
Well, they're
or-
going to share with
Okay.
me what they're doing in
Okay.
other places.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to share with me
Because they're
what
a national company. of course.
exactly what they're proposing
Yeah.
for Harris, and I'm going to sit
Okay.
there and we're going to work it out, work it
Okay.
through. But when the time comes, they'll be ready, and they
Okay.
need maybe a week or two in advance. You got to get your staff ready,
Sure.
all those things. And I've just
Big
committed to
operation.
them. I will not hold back. I'll just as we move forward, just continue to work with them.
Okay. And what about the fairgrounds, the slot machines?
Well, the fairgrounds as well, but I don't have a meeting with the fairgrounds this week.
Okay.
This is Harris that I'm talking about.
Sure,
But
which
the
is the big
same
one.
applies, as it relates to the fairgrounds.
Okay. We were talking about libraries a little bit before. Can you give us an update on what's happening with them?
Sure. So on yesterday, NOPL did open as it relates to curbside. I'm told from the briefing this morning, Dr. Morley, that it went very well. The response of the public was tremendous. So we know how
Okay.
important libraries
Sure.
are to communities. And the response from the public just kind of solidifies that. We have also, when we're lending our materials, we have a process in place. So when the materials are returned, those materials are on quarantine, sanitized appropriately before going back onto the shelves. I want the public to understand
Okay.
we're being very cautious.
So how can they order? Is it by telephone, online?
Oh, they can do absolutely.
Okay.
Online services.
Which branches?
Yep.
All branches?
Yep. Right now, as it relates to the online, that is,
Okay.
system wide.
Sure.
But as it relates to branches opening, it will be a phased approach. You can access that information online, whether it's NOLA.gov or NOPL.
Yep.
You can also call. Our folks are there and eager to answer any calls coming from the public.
Okay. This is something that I'm sure you will relate to as a parent. Brianna from East Riverside wants to know, when schools and colleges reopen, will you require testing for each individual? Obviously, that's not your direct jurisdiction, but you will be involved in that.
Well, I will continue to provide the support that our education partners need. So that's whether that is primary and grades to higher ed. They have been very much involved with my administration as we've moved through this COVID, and we'll continue to engage them and just give them the support that is needed. But that, I'm sure, I expect that to be one of not just coming from the public, but I believe in talking and interacting with leadership of our schools, that they are focusing on this as well. So
Okay.
testing is vital.
Yes.
And the city of New Orleans will continue to not only advocate for that, but increase our capacity. We're now up to 11%, which is a huge deal in terms of our population.
11% of people have been tested.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is critical. So, a week ago we were at 10. So
Right.
literally every
Wow.
week we're growing in terms of our capacity. We're also making it known that our businesses, again, this kind of speaks to how we're trying to support our businesses and their employees every step of the way. So we're communicating directly to those businesses that their employees who also wanted access to testing and wanted to know if they were going to be
Sure.
saved, that they are factored in to our testing sites, and we're notifying them where they are. We're also creating mobile testing sites so that we can be strategically placed in areas throughout the city that make it easier for our employees, meaning of the businesses, to get tested. So we're just factoring in all of these different provisions to make it easier and safer for our
Right.
people that we depend on working these jobs every single
Sure.
day.
Now, as I understand it, you can get a test at this point even if you have no symptoms, have no
Oh, yeah.
reason to believe you've been exposed. Anybody can, like the
Anyone.
president said way back when, it's finally true here in New Orleans.
Here in New Orleans, it's been that way for a long time,
Okay.
actually.
Anybody, even?
No,
Okay.
absolutely. And anyone.
People have been asking about conferences. Do you envision large conferences taking place in New Orleans anytime in September? That's a question from actually Shirley from Toronto, so perhaps someone planning to come here in the fall.
Well, our folks, they love New Orleans. They do. And they have been consistent in their outreach, in their letters that they write to me. I mean, it's really amazing. I do not know as it relates to September and large gatherings. Again, the data will dictate, and we will make adjustments, as we move through this. Yeah.
And Art from Metairie would like to know, when will New Orleans allow filming again?
Well, thank you, Art from Metairie. We have a lot of our leaders in the industry that are working very hard in terms of their guidelines and putting things in place. They're very hopeful to be able to activate in July. I'm hopeful as
Okay.
well. But again, it is something that has to be tailored specifically to that industry. It will not be, business as usual. It'll
Yeah.
be something new, but it will come specifically from those who are closest to that industry. And they're working through those guidelines now. Along with our Office of Cultural Economy. It's one that we're eager to get back, rolling
Sure.
in the city. And again, the data will dictate, but we're working on those guidelines and ways that we can make it safe to happen in the city.
Right. We had a number of questions about bars, which are still closed, bars that do not have food permits, do not serve food. Richard from the French Quarter would like to know, what's the rationale behind allowing bars with food permits to reopen with limited occupancy, but not bars without food permits with social distancing and limited occupancy, the same restrictions?
Yeah, this is one where our health experts and professionals really are saying, the bars you tend to then you just hang, and right now we can't do that. So, we've allowed bars that sell food to open. I absolutely want to be fair in that regard, so that those bars that do have the license from the health department, to sell food, that they need to stick to the guidelines. They're not open to be a bar. So
Is that what's happening that you
well, we
understand,
have
or-
some bad actors.
You do? Okay.
Yes. And that's what I mean when I want to be fair, because it's not fair.
Sure.
So we have about 144, not bars selling food, but 144 in total of businesses that have not been in compliance, and that
Okay.
we are focusing on. This is as of Friday.
Okay.
And just a couple more over the weekend. But again, we're enforcing.
Okay.
And I tell my team, hey, be swift, and hey, if they don't follow the rules, shut them down. But my team is really
Okay.
working, trying to be the good cop, and I said, well, I'll be the bad if necessary, but everything
Okay.
in balance, and really trying
So
to
they
be
get
fair.
they get a chance to
Well,
correct the
they
problem?
go out there and they're warned,
They're
and
warned,
they go
okay.
back, and if if they have not readjusted themselves, then that puts them on the path
Okay.
of being closed down.
Have businesses been closed down yet?
Not just yet, but
Okay.
I have an update today, later
Okay.
on today, from code enforcement, where
Okay.
some of those actions will be taken.
Interesting. Okay. This is a question about hurricane season, actually, and which isn't stopping for a health crisis, unfortunately. With an overly active hurricane season predicted this year, will there be any trains provided for residents to evacuate from the Union Passenger Terminal? That's a question from Bob from Mid-City.
Well, Bob, thank you, man, for that. We are finalizing and signing the contract with Amtrak.
You are? Okay.
This was something that my administration was really working hard on, even pre-COVID, of course, to activate our emergency response of getting folks out of here. But to Bob's point, even this week and today, we have a tropical storm that was named Bertha.
Yep.
And hey,
On the
we're
East Coast,
on
yes.
the East Coast, headed towards North Carolina. But the thing is that we're still in May, right?
Yeah.
Almost hitting June. This is early.
Yep.
But for me and my team, it's a clear sign that they've gotten it right. We do expect an active hurricane season in the midst of a pandemic, which has caused us to double down on our efforts to evacuate people and or shelter in place. We have identified additional locations, as we have to,
okay.
because with COVID and social distancing, you can't evacuate the same way you did
Sure.
before, whether it's the number of people on a bus or also on a train. And so we're looking at multiple sites. You can't have everyone crammed into one location. So we are very much prepared,
Okay.
working with all of our partners, the Unified Command that we work with regionally, of course, on a national scale. I have my mayoral briefing on this Friday, but all hands have really been on deck. I'm proud of
Okay.
our team, and we had Also, we're bringing in our, we're calling it, we're, I guess, creating our own internal capacity with volunteers to manage through disasters and help our residents as we evacuate our folks on the citywide with the citywide evacuation plan. And
Okay.
so we went live with that on Friday with the public saying, listen, all call, this is hurricane season in the midst of a pandemic. We really need your support. We had over 150 volunteers, residents step up to sign up as of today. So I just want to say thank you to our public for,
Okay.
again, just,
Wow.
always stepping up. Yeah, and understanding that at the end of the day, we are our first responders, the
Right,
residents are, to our
right.
neighbors.
So do you expect to have more, are these locations in the city, or are they?
Well, now when you talk
not
about
supposed-
evacuation, it's outside,
Right,
right? So locations,
So
we're
you're
looking at
small locations
small
elsewhere.
locations, up to 5 of them outside
Okay.
of the city that are safe, that are
So
in the
no
state, of
Superdome,
course.
nothing like that.
Right.
That's-
But also looking at, though, if we have to shelter in place as fast as these storms come.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of all these things. The climate has changed, and
Right.
the way that these storms are coming in, they're just different, and they're faster.
Right, right, and bigger and stronger.
They are, and they're yeah.
and more and all
More
of that.
aggressive. It's true. And then
Yeah.
also, in a city where we are very much focused on our infrastructure, and we lost our Turbine 5 that exploded on us in December, which was a big deal.
Yep.
25 megawatts in terms of our power. We should be okay, but that turbine really impacted this city as it relates to the redundancy of power. So because of our pumps and our old our system is, we know that at some point it will malfunction. We know that.
right.
But that's when we depend on other power sources to have our back. Well, that Turbine 5 was a large one that is
Yeah.
now offline, and that this city spent, millions rehabilitating it years ago. But again, that money was one-time money,
Right.
and now the turbine blew up.
So it's gone.
It's
not
gone.
being replaced or
No, and those are
rehabilitated.
those tough decisions that we have to make,
Sure.
whether or not reinvesting more and not more. It's millions
Yep.
into a turbine
It's
that we
good
know.
money after bad, and
This is
yeah.
the time, but this is the time to get off. And we've been talking about this a mighty long
course.
time, but it's just front and center in the midst of everything else. But I'm putting it back on the table
Okay.
front because people forget.
They do.
They do. They
A
do.
lot's happened. You
A
have to
lot
give
has
it that.
happened.
Yes.
And I said, listen, we're making headway. We're making some progress, but there's still a lot to do.
Right. So we had a couple questions about one of the hot topics nationally, which is masks.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a proponent of wearing masks. So are many of your constituents, and a few of them are wondering what they can do to get other people to comply. Becky from Uptown says, can we implement fines or penalties for people who are not wearing masks inside essential businesses, especially grocery stores? Howard from Uptown asks, how is the requirement being enforced, and who should we call if we witness a violation?
Well, I mean, the masks conversation, and when you get into enforcement, and then you get into penalties, and then you get
Yeah.
into the burden of the penalties, I think the best thing to do, Becky, is to help us reiterate and push for mask wearing, and that it protects us all. And it's a sign, in my opinion, of just respect for your fellow citizen, and also understanding the impacts of folks that could be carriers, and we all have a role to play, and this comes to personal responsibility. And I'm just continuing to encourage our residents to demonstrate that we care about one another, and it's a sign of solidarity, and especially a community, a city that has demonstrated our resiliency coming out of Hurricane Katrina and being boots on the ground then. I know I was not elected to anything, but it was about my community. It was about the people in ways that we can demonstrate that we care. The basic way that we can demonstrate that we care in this city is to put on that face mask and show the love. You love New Orleans. Let's show her that you love her by loving one another. And you know, I've even interacted with some folks that weren't really a part of the rebuilding post-Katrina and showing that love. But now it's needing to show it in a different way. And I just see it as putting that mask on. And for the employees that are just working and allowing us, you know, to go to the store and just to live somewhat, some sign of normalcy. I know it's not 100%, but show the love. I get really frustrated by it as well. And I hear from residents, and even on yesterday, can the city make it mandatory? Well, we have.
Right. But you're not
We
setting code
have. I mean,
enforcement
we're
out.
encouraging. We go out. We go to the
Right.
businesses. Listen, social distancing. Make sure those customers have masks on. So it's the businesses that need to be held accountable too. All of us play a role in this, and we know it is the best. We've been told that, and as we learn more about this virus, we need to respond by what we've learned or from what we've learned. And the masks, they do protect us. Everything, you know, helps. And this is one that is critical.
Right.
And when you talk, I mean, hey, everyone, you know, every now and then, you know, you have it's normal.
Right.
And or when you're out and you cough, it's this normal things that we do as human beings. That in the pandemic, coughing and sneezing and I mean, come on.
Right. And it seems that every kind of new bit of research that comes out really points to that being the main mode of transmission,
Yes. I mean,
as opposed to things you touch and
yes. But that's as human beings, we all do it.
Right.
So one person doesn't cough, like we all do these things. So let's
and then New
respect each other.
Orleanians, we hug and we sing and we do all of these things.
What we love, and so let's demonstrate that. And I heard from one business owner who came even post Katrina said one of the reasons we came to New Orleans was how, you know, the city and they just love on you and the hospitality. And I said, so this is a time to kind of give it on back, show that in return,
Right.
Because this is who we are,
Right.
And we want to preserve life in our city. This is about life or death. You know, for 504 people who have died.
Right.
You know.
Right. Another mask question from Jonathan of Uptown. Will police officers be wearing masks if they pull people over
Yes.
in their cars?
And police officers, they absolutely do.
Okay.
And this is a part of our protocol. And we make sure that, you know, all of our first responders are equipped. And yes, absolutely. Any interaction with the public, yes. You know,
I saw them all coming in. Yes.
Exactly, and we're not open to the public just yet, but
Okay.
we are open. You know,
Okay.
people can access city government electronically, and that's been going very well. And I want to make improvements there
Okay.
because I see us living this way for a mighty long
Okay.
time. Even when we get back to, you know, the new normal, but as we think about government and
Right.
efficiency, and
People are learning to do more at a distance. It's like Katrina. You learned when we all learned how to text. You know, what will we all learn after this?
Exactly. So I'm hoping they'll see, hey, their government is responsive and ready to serve, and basic city services happen.
Do you know when City Hall might reopen to the public?
Well, we're looking at, I have my, you know, we have our books here.
Phase 1 and 2.
Absolutely. And this is about reopening because some departments that are not necessarily in City Hall have reopened, or we're working on that,
Okay.
you know, whether it's because they're forward facing, we have to
Like
be
which ones?
geared up. So you have EMD, the
Okay.
Equipment Maintenance Division. That's
Okay.
very important for folks. We have to, you know, open back up. That is a service, of course, to citywide, you know, employees for vehicles, keeping them up and
Okay.
multiple things. But also as it relates to, you know, our inspection stations, wanting to make sure that, you know, the buses, for example, are starting to get in queue to needing to be inspected, gearing up for school to resume in the fall. You don't wait until the fall. You put those things online now so that we can make sure that we're providing the services that our school contractors need, transportation contractors need to be ready.
Okay.
And so that's one example of that.
Okay. What about NORD and summer camps? CC from St. Rock asks about that. And how
Oh, yeah, that's CC Campbell Rock. Well, NORD will begin to move forward with its summer camps, operating them June the 15th.
Okay.
We did a press conference, I believe, last week. We released our guidelines associated with those camps that we're running, meaning NORD. We are working on signage now for playgrounds and ordering additional hand washing stations, and so that we can put more of those, bring them more online, but giving our folks the resources that they need to be healthy. And so that signage and those washing stations are essential. Pools, at the pool, or even our tennis. Tennis is up and running. NORD wants to continue this even as we move past COVID.
Right.
Again, when you talk about
okay.
lessons learned, this is
Sure.
one that we can do things better.
Okay.
As we move forward. So that's something that we'll
Okay.
continue to have.
With pools, so will it largely be lap swimmers as opposed to
Yep. Laps.
kids being able to go and splash and play?
That's exactly right. We're going to start with our lap swim. Kids, will be able to do that as well, but it's again assigned by lanes.
By lane, okay.
And also times.
That's going to be very different for them.
It
Yes.
is, but you know what? They're responding. The public is responding very well.
Okay.
And let me tell you, look, they're more tech savvy.
Yeah.
They really are.
What about outdoor pools? What's the status of those?
Outdoor pools, more to come on that.
Okay.
Not opening just yet.
Okay.
We're letting, again, those guidelines and the data kind of direct us in that regard. It really does get into just the safety mechanisms around that, but more to come.
Okay.
We're starting slow.
Okay. Here's a forward-looking question from Kevin in Riverbend. What about making the French Quarter a pedestrian mall except for deliveries and commerce, and letting bars and restaurants use the streets and tables for tables and entertainment?
Absolutely. You said Kevin.
Kevin.
All right, Kevin, man, you speaking my language, I tell you.
Oh, okay.
Well, I put together a Tiger team several weeks ago, actually, on looking at the French Quarter. I call it No Cars in the Quarter. They have, and they're preparing for me. I should get this week. I did get an update on this past Friday. They've been working very hard. Exciting recommendations coming from that
Really?
Tiger team.
Okay.
Multiple pedestrian malls that are being put forth for consideration. I want it all, so I'm
would this
excited about it.
be long-term
It's going
or
to be
just
massive. No.
just
We're looking. This is our time. This is
Okay.
what I believe.
This is reimagining the French Quarter you're
This
talking
is the
about.
city's time
Okay.
to reimagine just how we live, how we move about, how we enjoy, how we get to know and learn the fabric of our city and just enjoy the fabric of our city. And so what we have learned even through pandemics prior to this,
Which we've had here before.
which we've had it before,
Yes.
but just globally, parks, more parks and rec space grew out of pandemics, public
Right.
housing.
It's safer to be outside, all the
Safer.
guidance says.
So we're using this as an opportunity to not just, one, to look at reimagining the quarter, more pedestrian malls. I see it, I want from that Joan of Arc, I
Yep.
just, the whole thing. I want it all open.
Joni on the pony, yes.
Oh, and then it also will allow us, because with this we are evaluating policies and procedures around street performers, musicians. We know we still have the TRO in place since the 80s, but this, artists, but it gives us, I believe, more opportunity to spread out our cultural bears, and also to provide them with greater access, kind of to getting their fair share, in our city, and giving them space to do what they do, and one, not having to run another out. So again, using this, Kevin, as an opportunity for pedestrian malls, investing in our parks, in our rec space, being more creative in that regard. Even as it relates to, our biking paths and transportation options. This is the time. So I've told my team, let's turn the map around and be so creative and innovative. And let's not leave anything on the table.
Okay.
There's no bad idea. And
Okay.
so my folks are responding to that, and we're all
Interesting.
excited. French Market, another thing,
Okay.
you know, reimagining that. It's all inclusive.
What about outside the French Quarter? Moss Street, I think, was pretty popular when you closed
Moss
it
Street,
down.
oh, the public has responded
Loved it.
great to that.
And it's open to traffic again now, but
But the public responded fabulously.
They did,
Over
okay.
90% positive. I mean, a good thing that they would love to see it come.
and
you
that's
know.
a beloved spot, obviously.
Oh,
along the
beloved.
bayou.
Yes. So that's why we did it. Not just to do a show, but like
Right.
really looking at ways to just, you know, for pedestrian, to make it more pedestrian friendly. And so we're looking possibly to scale that up.
Okay.
We introduced by request, and we have support on the council for parklets, you know, again,
Right.
utilizing streets.
And that's parking lots and places where,
Yes, parking lots, but businesses that have adjacent private property, they
Right.
can do that now.
okay.
They can.
If it's
I
their
gave the
property.
green light from
Right.
day one of phase
So what's
one.
a parklet? What is a parklet?
A parklet
exactly?
would be whether it's the street.
Okay,
You know, some have requested some
right. And
areas
this is
along
for a
Magazine.
restaurant to be able to add outdoor seating.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And also creating it in ways to where we may want to hold on to it.
Right.
So I'm not just thinking short term,
Yeah.
but this is our opportunity. I
Okay.
believe it. We won't see it again, you know, anytime
Right.
soon. This is our revolution. So I
Okay.
think that it's just our time with this, and you know, being more, just being consistent with enforcement. And I got
Right.
word today, you know, from our BCC partners, and as businesses are open up even on Bourbon, they're going back with the, you know, not following the proper guidelines for, you know, the signage or T-shirts or the, you know, the, I don't want to get obscene, you know.
Yes, okay.
And
The
so-
Bourbon Street stuff.
Absolutely. And so
Yes.
again, this is our time. And so I told my folks, look, go out, let's enforce.
Right.
It's how you do it.
Right.
You know, it's with love, but this is our time
And there's
to
something
reclaim.
positive that can come out of
Yes,
this,
reclaim
bad
our
situation.
place.
Okay.
Yes, this is it. So
Okay.
I'm excited.
Is
as
the
you can tell.
public going to have opportunity to get involved in that? I'm
They
assuming?
will,
Yes, 'cause I
but
think
on the
they're-
front end, they will.
Yeah.
But on the front end, I'm asking my team to look at what's working, you know, in other places. Because listen, cities around the world are using
doing
this
Sure.
as an opportunity. So we're looking at what's happening in other spaces. We're looking at where we can do pilots. We will engage the public in terms of where those pilots, you know, may need to be on the front. That public input process.
Right.
You know, so we're following those guidelines. So yes.
Interesting. Okay. A lot coming up. I think we're running low on time. So let me ask you, what's the next thing? You said there's going to be a data presentation, you think? Okay.
Since the last presentation
Okay.
to the community, to the city.
And that will be 2 weeks after?
That
the
will be 2
cha-
weeks after
Right.
us moving into phase one.
Okay.
And yeah.
When should we know about phase 2?
Well, we'll know when the data
Follow the
tells
data.
us it's true. So I would say you'll get an update on data this week. I look to providing another update maybe a week or week after that, so that we can really see, and because time, again, we need to allow it to pass before we
Right.
really understand
Right.
how we've been impacted. Visitors, we did have some come the weekend. We did have people,
Memorial
I'm sure,
Day.
go outside of the city. But we'll learn. We'll see and we'll learn and we'll tweak and we'll move in that direction in terms of loosening restrictions as the data dictates that it's time for us to do that.
Okay. And do you expect to align more closely with what the state is doing at some point, or to kind of I mean, I know you've been talking to the governor, but you have had a different schedule. Do you expect that to continue?
Well, it depends on the data. Again, New Orleans, we had to be more restrictive for a reason. We were
Right.
disproportionately impacted.
Right.
This city was. And I think it's a disservice to the families and those who have been impacted by this virus to say that it doesn't matter. You know, it does matter. And we were disproportionately impacted. And we will let that data tell us how we should move. And again, not trying to be more restrictive just because, but being cautious because we know what this city means to the state. We know what this city means to the country, and also the fabric that we have, that is across the globe. So we know that. And let me tell you, people are watching, and they're watching, and they are saying that we're not only, we're demonstrating we're doing the right things here, and we're taking the necessary precautions because people want to be safe. And when they come to visit this city, they want to know, not only the government, but the businesses that are providing services care about them and not just the dollar that they spend. That's important.
Right.
So we're on the right track.
And if they don't have confidence,
If they don't have confidence, they will not come.
They will not come. Right.
And we owe that to our people, to this community, to our residents, and we owe that to the folks that we want to come on back to New Orleans. And when they come back, we want them to have a wonderful time, a beautiful and a safe experience.
Okay. More to come. Well, I think we're out of time. So I wanted to thank you again, Mayor
thank you.
Cantrell. Thank you for hosting us here at City Hall. It's nice to be back. And
Thank you.
and thank you again to the law offices of Chip Forstall for sponsoring this town hall. And thank you for watching. Journalism has never been more important to Louisiana than at this moment. And again, we thank you for your support. We ask you to subscribe today, if you have not, to support this effort. It's easy, it's affordable, and you can do it by visiting NOLA.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you, Mayor
Thank
Cantrell.
you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Let's continue to show our love, New Orleans.
Okay.
All right.